and then get interrupted again. So, VU University Amsterdam, that's basically that side. And Beeld en Geluid, or the Dutch Institute for Sound and Vision, Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision, which is a very long word, and in Dutch it's Beeld en Geluid, so I think I'll just use B and G in the rest of the presentation. So every time when I say B and G, I mean Johan and his crew there. So that's that side of the presentation. So our work is based on two observations. I will go very quickly to them. I think they're very familiar to you. If they're not, please let me know, then we can change all our research, and that's also good. So video content annotation. Very time consuming, sometimes takes even 5 times the duration of the video to annotate, and as a consequence, the annotations that are added are very coarse-grained, right? So they usually describe the video as a whole and not the specific content within the video. A good thing, maybe a bad thing, is that they use sort of professional vocabulary for that, right? So we will come back to that later on. But the other side, the second observation is, what do you actually search for? Right, so this is work from a colleague from actually the other university in Amsterdam. So every now and then I add a paper here. Maybe you managed to write it down, otherwise you can ask me later after the presentation. And by analyzing the logs of the B&G system, they found out that people actually predominantly buy fragments. Whereas the search system allows them only to search for whole broadcasts. Right, so what they have to do is manually look into this broadcast to find the specific fragments that they need. And this takes a lot more time than just selecting a broadcast. And the vocabulary that they use for this is a bit mixed, right? Because they know how the videos are annotated. So often they use the terms that they know are used or the titles. But still a significant part, 35% of the things, are actually not found by title or an index term, but some word in the description. Right? So this is a bit more a user vocabulary that they use to find sort of indirectly those fragments through the broadcasts. So, to summarize these two observations, what we'd like to do is improve the support to find video fragments. And how we like to do that? Well, we need to have time-based annotations, right? So descriptions of the content within the video. And preferably, we would like to have that both in a professional as well as a user vocabulary. So, obviously, being in the session, what is the method that we're trying for that is, can we do that with crowdsourcing? So, B&G initiated a project called Waar is dat? Right, so the credit for this doesn't go to me, but mainly to B&G. But together with a lot of partners, they launched this application in 2009, and it was quite a big bomb. And so this ran for, the first pilot ran for 8 months, and just 2 months ago, the second version was released. So where the first version used content from the archive as well as from different TV episodes from a Dutch broadcaster, this website was particularly focused on one type of Dutch TV episode, sort of actualities, informative episode, maybe Dutch people recognize it. And it contained all the fragments that were part of this TV episodes for 10 years. And this is actively used at the moment. So how does it work, this game? A user enters the website, he either stays anonymous or he logs in, and he has a choice of 5 channels, which contains different categories of those fragments that are part of the TV episodes. So he either selects one of these fragments, or here at the bottom sees a link that some other player has already started the game. So we can actually join this game that other people are waiting for to play with other people. Okay, let's say we found each other, these players. Then the game starts. It looks like this. So it's very simple. There is a video playing. It starts automatically when you start the game. And below it is an input field. And the user's task is to just describe whatever he sees or hears or thinks is related to this video. And of course this idea is based on Louis van Aan's image labeling game, but it is sort of translated to video. So the idea here is that you score points when you provide the same word, the same tag to this video. And so for images, this is just the same word for the image. Of course, here it's video, so there is a time dimension added to it. So it has to be matching to each other within 10 seconds. So here on the side, you see a number of tags that are added, and you see how many points you have scored, and the current ranking that you have in this game. So if I go back one slide. So scoring these points is the main motivation here, and on the home page it's listed how many points you have scored, and the highest ranks are shown here. Alright, so did it work? Well, quantitatively speaking, it worked quite well. So if you look at the first pilot, it was run for 8 months, and 612 videos were tagged, about 2,000 players played it, and there were almost, well, let's say 500,000 of tags. Right? So they were not completely evenly distributed, which was a good thing as well as a bad thing. The good thing was that there were some videos that had about 8 tags per second describing the content. The second pilot, I just managed to update the number of tags. That's the lowest one, so it's running for 2 months now. 172,000, it's just showing on the website. However, I didn't know what the number of videos was and the number of players. So this is 1 month old, so that's probably a little bit more now as well. So that's going even harder than the first pilot. So maybe this can go up to 1 million. I have until
like 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay. So what did we actually collect? So let's look at it a little bit more qualitatively. So what you see here is one video from the archive, and on the side is a number of tags that were added to it. So we studied this, and this is written down in this paper here at the bottom. So you can find more details there. So the good thing is, they are time-based, right? That was the whole nature of the game. So each tag is linked to a point in the video. So here's a tag on the side, and actually in this demo you can click it and it jumps directly to the point in the video. So that's good. It's also in use of vocabulary, right? So we did some experiments by matching them to the vocabulary used by the professional catalogers. And actually the overlap is very small, whereas the number of tags that are proper Dutch words is quite large. And if you look at what is found on Google, it's actually 89% as a tag or a short phrase is actually found on Google. So we assume this is actually sort of a meaningful thing, whereas the overlap with the professional vocabulary is very small. So this is sort of an indication that it's a different vocabulary than professionals are using. So what is it that we find here? Well, predominantly objects, right? Generic descriptions of objects. So, sorry, the examples here are in Dutch, but maybe you recognize beef eater. It's the crowning in England, actually. There are quite some person names, right? So the former Queen of the Netherlands, her husband. And there are a few locations. England, up there could be a Hyde Park, but it's spelled, it has a spelling error. But we don't have events, we don't have scene descriptions, right? It's not so weird, because what people do, they describe what they see directly in the video. And they just don't describe the whole content, the content as a whole, the scene, or the whole video as a whole. And what you could say is, well, it's just tags, right? It's good, we have a lot of them, but there are also some limitations. So there are typos here. There's no unique reference, so which Bernard is this, right? In this context it might be quite clear, but in a broader context you would search for it, which Bernard is it actually. And there are no things like synonyms, right? So beefeater, if you don't happen to know this specific term and you want to use with guard, then you might not find it. So that brings me to the final part, and this is more current work. Sorry, this is not the best picture, but what I want to show here is, can we extend this process that we're doing here? So if you look on the side, let's say you have this audiovisual archive, it exports some videos to the What-is-that tagging game, and out of this comes a number of tags that's put back into the system, and people can search for this. Right? So we have two types of users. We have searchers, and we have gamers, and the stuff that gamers do can be used by the searchers. Right? What if we introduce one extra step, where there's actually moderation, right? And this could be people from, for example, the archive, but this could also be crowdsourced as well. Okay, so an interesting thing that we can do here, and I'll show you a simple demo of that in this moderation phase, we could also link the tags to actually the concepts on the web of data. And I will show you a demo afterwards what the added value of this, making these links would be. So, again, a video, the same video, number of tags, slightly different order, and the task of the moderator here is to do something that we call reconciliation. So it's not a word I made up myself, but actually on the web of data this is used now by several tools, and there are, for different data sets, APIs available to do this reconciliation. So you select the data source, and what it does, it sends these tags to the service, and what it gives you back is a number of candidate concepts. So in this case, for Bernard, it found a number of candidate concepts, but it's not as good to automatically select the right one, right? So we need, again, a user to pick the right one. So we did a small experiment with this, and it turned out that a little bit than half the cases, actually the first suggestion was the correct one. But the other half, it actually varied from 2 ranked on the 2nd place up to the 9th place. But on the other hand, so small experiment with 4 users that did this, and the inter-agreement among these users was very high. So doing this manually actually works quite well. Okay, so now we have a video with tags linked to concepts from the web of data. So what do we buy for this? Well, let's say we want to access this video. What we have now is, first of all, we know what the types of these things are. So we can use this to classify them in different facets, right? So we have persons, we have locations, we have subjects. For each concept, we know exactly what it is, right? So it's uniquely identified by a concept on the web of data. So we now know which Bernard this is. And because this concept is explained on the web of data, we can also use the background information so to enrich video navigation. All right, that's very quickly sort of a workflow on annotating and moderating videos. So, as a take-home message, I would like to ask you, would you include user-generated metadata in your collection? So there are 3 options. Right? Please explain me why not, because maybe we can learn from that and maybe pull you over to the maybe part. So maybe then, please explain what are the quality criteria for your collection that it should meet for you to include it, and otherwise soon to download probably the Waze software, but that's also part of Johan's